Hello there, welcome to my first video of Bronze to Diamond series. My name is 7, yes, the Arabic number 7. I'm a high diamond player, started league since S2. I'm going to share some of my experiences in terms of tactics during the ban pick stage. With the release of 10 bans, more and more people start to think more carefully when they're banning or picking. So how do you actually ban pick? I've seen lots of written tutorials, websites or videos talking about ban pick, but I think they're just too general. They don't go in any ban pick tactics in detail. All they talk about is OP champions, like what champions you need to ban. If they're no banned, you have to pick them. That's not the case. How do you ban pick? You definitely don't just blind pick Yasuo if it's open. So what you actually need to do during ban pick stage, this is what I'm going to talk about in the video. No, I'm not saying drafting like professionals or after watching video you'll be coma, because at the end of the day it's still going to be low elo cancer solo queue. And here are my list of things you need to consider while drafting in a cancer solo queue game. For laners, you need to consider level 1 5-on-5 teamfighting, bot lane level 2 2-on-2 teamfighting, early game laning, early game roaming, kill potential, push potential, ability to avoid ganks, lane control while you're behind, snowball potential, amount of help you can give to your jungler when they got invaded, CC when jungler comes to gank your lane, speed when taking objectives. For junglers, you need to consider jungle pathing, jungle speed, first gank, jungle soloing, jungle invading, base timing, early ganks, dragon control, teamfights. In general, you also need to consider teamfight engagement, disengaging, rotating, assassinating, AoE damage, tankness, CC, healing, pilling, poking, teamfight when someone got engaged on, small teamfights, early game, late game, and combos. A bit too much, isn't it? Don't worry, this is cancer solo queue, so bronzes aren't going to consider all of this. All they care is what champion is fun, and they could just pick that champion and go anywhere they want. Like, God knows what they're thinking when they're ban picking. Silver players, they have more game knowledge by now. They know what is a meta champion and they know what champion is OP, so they're just going to pick whatever the OP champion is in that patch most of the cases, but they don't really know how to deal with them. Like, they don't think about team comp or anything like that. I'm sorry Yasuo players, but I just can't put an ergo image on there. Gold players' game knowledge is pretty damn good. They kind of know by now they need a tank at top lane, they need an AP and mid lane, and a normal ADC jungler and support. They can tell by now whether team comp is good or team comp sucks, where they need to dodge the queue. But I think that's pretty much it. Nothing in depth. They probably can know that Lee Sin is an early champion, but like when Lee Sin skills off, when do they need to end the game when they're ahead, they probably doesn't know that. For platinum players, I think they all have good picks and bans, certainly no underleveled. I don't think drafting phase is a big problem for platinum players. They knows how their team comp works and they knows the majority of the matchup. For example, casting into a Zed would be a bad matchup, they wouldn't want that. But I think the main problem for platinum players are their ego while ban picking. For example, I got auto-filled into top, but I'm normally a mid main, so I decided to play Teemo despite our team needs a tank. Or something like, there's a platinum Jinx main, he played Jinx for 5 games, he got pretty bored of Jinx, and last game enemy had a pretty good Vayne, so he thinks it's a good idea to pick Vayne this game. He could play better than the enemy Vayne last game, despite his team doesn't have any pure champions and the enemy got full of assassins, so it's clearly a bad idea to pick Vayne. He knows that, but he just wants to play Vayne whatsoever. Lastly, diamond. I mean diamond by proper diamond, not those people who are diamond 5 with like 20 LP or something. Diamond players tends to think more than anyone else during the draft phase, but however it is still solo queue, so not all of the points I listed 2 minutes ago are going to be considered by diamond solo queue players. These are the main points diamond players will consider during draft phase. They think about how to start the game based on their picks. Their picks won't be affected by this, but they will think carefully, like how a game will start. For example, if I pick Blitzcrank, should I go invade? If it's gold or silver, people definitely say yes to a blaze rank invade, but in diamond, people tend to think more about even I have a blaze rank, would I win a level 1 team fight? Like enemy got a Lee Sin jungle and tons of level 1 team fighting strong champions, so I probably should go defensive even I have a blaze rank in my team. Second point diamond players tend to think about is early game laning. For example, if you got put into mid lane and the enemy mid laner already picked Syndra and you are TF main, now you probably think, should I really pick the TF? Most low elo player probably thinks, oh, I could play safe and once I get to level 6 I could just roam and out-roam Syndra and get my team ahead and win the game. But in high diamond, if you actually pick a TF into Syndra, you're most likely to be 30 CS behind by level 6. That is already 2 kills worth of money. And if you make a mistake in lane, got killed once, well done, that's your lane over. Syndra probably can snowball you so hard that could win the game solo. Therefore, TF might not be a good idea to pick against the Syndra, so you probably want some champions that are stronger in lane. You don't have to pick someone that can totally dominate against Syndra. All you need is like a stronger champion, not as weak as TF. In terms of roaming, there are lots of different types of roaming champions, especially down in the mid lane. There are champions who cannot stop roaming, like Orilenso or Talia, or there are champions that roams quite a lot, but he still needs to stay in lane, like Kassadin, Kata, or LeBlanc. Unless you are first pick or second pick and your team didn't show what they want to play, before you pick a roaming champion, you have to think carefully what your team offers you. If your bot lane picks Ezreal and Janna and your jungler is a scaling jungler, therefore it would be a terrible idea to pick a roaming champion because there's no way your team could help you to kill the enemy. This would be a totally waste of time to roam. I won't go into detail about kill potential because it's pretty much the early game laning and roaming added together. Defensive minded players tend to think more about wave clear because it is much more important while you're losing rather than winning. I think in season 7 a team must have at least 2 wave clear champions. One for the mid lane wave clear and one for the top lane wave clear. Top laners only needs to clear your wave fast so you can match with the enemy TP and so on. Whoever goes mid lane, mid game must have a really good wave clear, especially your team is losing, or else when enemy get Rift Herald or Baron, they could just roll down your mid lane tower really easily. Once you lost your mid lane inner tower, you lost pretty much 80% vision of the map. Next up, engaging. Pretty much every single team needs someone who can engage into a team fight. I mean engage by hard engage, like Malphite's Alt-A or Rek'Sai's Tunnel, who can just go straight in, rather than Lee Sin's Alt-A where he maybe in teamfights could kick someone out. If your team have no one to engage, unless you're winning by so much, you could just tower dive. Enemy could just stall the game up and maybe in 45 minutes they win one single team fight and end the game. In terms of tankness, it is much difficult than you could think. It is not as easy as our team doesn't have a tank, so our top laner needs to pick a tank. This would be a great example when you have a team like Lee Sin, Zed, Jhin, Sona, and your last pick, your top laner. What do you want to pick? Maokai or Riven? Most of the people would pick Maokai because this team doesn't have a tank and Maokai would be a great tank. But in my opinion, Riven would be a better pick in this situation.
Why Riven? I hate that champion!
Well, there is a reason. This team comp is the absolute and early game team comp, and most of the tanks only functions mid game or mid late game. Before that they are useless, especially in terms of tanking. When you have a team comp like this, which is so early game based, there's no point to pick a tank. Even if you pick a tank, your team probably still lose the late game team fights because Lee Sin, Zed and Jhin just scales off so badly. But if you pick Riven and dominates your lane, you could finish the game with your team within 25 minutes. This is another example. I know some of these champions are meta champions, people probably won't go to play them, but it doesn't matter, that's not the point I'm trying to show you. This time you're the ADC, your team picked Jace top, Nidalee jungle, Xerath mid lane, support from, while enemy team just have a random normal team comp. You have two choices, either Jinx or Varus. I think everyone can tell that your team is a pretty much poke comp with Jace, Nidalee, and Xerath. The question is whether you want to play a poke ADC to make your team absolute amazing at poking, or you want to play a hyper carry teamfight ADC Jinx, whose early game is pretty weak. Surprisingly, the answer would be Jinx, because poke champions are pretty bad against tank, and your team's early game aren't that great either. Your team early games are okay, but definitely not strong enough to destroy the enemy within 25 minutes. Therefore, this game is definitely going to last over 30 minutes. So if you pick Varus, a poke ADC, your team is going to struggle to output damage late game against the enemy strong tanks like Maokai and Volibear. But enemy tanks late game could easily kill your team's squishy targets. Despite Varus could poke with Jace, Xerath, and Nidalee to bring the enemy health bar lower before teamfight starts. But as soon as the enemy hard engages, like Volibear flash to Q someone back, or Maokai flash W, any of these happens, you probably have 5 seconds to do damage before a teamfight ends. And Varus obviously isn't going to bring down Maokai fast enough for your team to win the teamfight. Meanwhile, Jinx could do a tons of AoE damage and armor penetration damage against the enemy hyper tanks. After seeing two examples, I'll leave this one to you. Please let me know in the comment section whether you think Gnar or Fiora is a better top laner to pick after you see team comps like this. Other 4 things Diamond players tend to think about are CC, peeling, poking, and timing. I think I kind of explained it already in the above examples, so I won't really go into details about them once again. Lastly, I'm going to conclude a few points about draft phase. First of all, you need to widen your champion pool. You don't want to be OTP. Sometimes it could be good, but sometimes it could go horribly wrong. It always helps if you can play more champion. Second, stick to the correct pick rather than a fan pick, especially if you are platinum. Third, consider team comps multi-dimensional. Makes your team comp more flexible. A good team comp does not mean your team needs a tank. The fourth point is don't AFK until you're locked to your champion. You can just ignore this point if you're decided you're definitely going to play Zed anyways. Or if you're a Zed OTP that you play Zed every single game, then you pretty much could ignore this video. There's not much point of it. But for me, sometimes I run out of time when picking a champion because I have to consider the team comp. The fifth point is ban meta champions or champions that you find hard to lane against. To be honest, most of this video is about picks rather than bans, because in solo queue there's no mechanics in terms of banning, apart from banning strong champions and don't ban champions that your team wants to play. Pick order is also really important in the drafting phase. If you're a mid laner and you're first or second pick, you don't know what to pick and you don't want to get counter picked, then pick a champion for your team, or ask for any picks your team wants. If one of your teammates mains one of the meta champions that's not banned and is likely going to be picked by the enemy, if you don't pick it, then pick that champion. And the next one is say no to 5 AP. Doesn't matter what your team or enemy team picks, you will always have your own pick and you never want a 5 AP team. 5 AP team does have a chance to win, but the chance of that would be 10%, I would say, because the enemy could just simply stack MR. And the problem of that is if you pick an AP champion, most likely your AA does no damage, therefore all of your damage are AP. I think even 4 AP champions in a team would make the team comp sucks and I would dodge that queue. This is different from 5 AD comp because AD champions tends to be more powerful than AP champions early game, so before enemy tanks with stack up armor you could potentially finish the game. So sometimes 5 AD team actually have more than 50% of winning. In addition, there's plenty of armor penetrating items, but for magic penetrating items there's only 2 apart from the shoes. Lastly, watch more professional games draft phase. Experience matters. If you can't find a way for you to improve in-game to get a higher tier, for example to get to Diamond, you think that you can't play any better mechanically, then you could try things out of games. I'm not saying like, oh, get a better internet. That's not the case. What I'm saying is things like Banpick, runes, masteries, champion pool could matter. In some cases, professional games Banpick may not suitable for solo queue, but in most of the times it is really worth a lot to learn it. At last, this is only a guide video. If you're an OTP and you want to continue to be an OTP, there's no problems with it. I have seen master players or challenger players or even high diamond players who are OTP. If you want more fun out of League of Legends, you could try out different champions in different scenarios. Well, that's it for this video. You guys probably can tell already that English isn't my first language. I used to make videos in other languages. This is the first time of me making an English video. Thanks for watching. Please press the like button and subscribe it.